everyone, it's Jess and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it's your first time here. Today I'm going to be sharing my October wrap up with you, and I read 6 books in the month of October, which is a little bit less than I had hoped to read because we went on a 10-day holiday at the end of October to the start of November, and I had imagined reading quite a bit more than I did, but 6 books is fairly good, and a couple of them were quite big books as well, so let's just jump straight into it. The first book that I want to talk about is A Most Wanted Man by John le Carré, and it feels like an absolute age ago that I read this book. I talk about it in a lot more detail in my September wrap-up, which I will link up here, but basically I was about 100 pages from finishing at the end of September, and as you can see I don't even have a physical copy of it because I really didn't enjoy this particular book. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. It just really wasn't for me, and the last 100 pages, so even the kind of shock finale twists and the final twists and turns really didn't redeem the book for me, unfortunately. So not a great start to the month, but then I picked up possibly one of my favourite series of the year so far, and that was the final 3 books in the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. And it's actually been a really long time since I've read a series of books back to back. I read Cinder back in July or August, I think, but then I decided to just pick up the final 3 books and finish them. So I picked up Scarlet, followed by Cress, and then finally the huge book that is Winter. Scarlet was without a doubt my favourite book of the series. I absolutely loved the Scarlet and Wolf storyline. I have written a much more in-depth review of the whole Lunar Chronicles series on my blog, which I will stick in the description box down below, so do go and check that out. But basically all the books are just a continuation of the storyline that starts to take place in Cinder, and in each book we meet a different character from a fairy tale retelling. So Scarlet is Red Riding Hood, Cress is Rapunzel, and Winter is Snow White. And what I really loved about them is that in each book we also then follow the storylines of the other characters that we have previously met, hence why Winter is such a big book, because you've basically got 9 or 10 character stories that you've kind of got to wrap up all in one. As I said, Scarlet was my favourite book. Cress was probably my least favourite character, although I thought that Captain Thorn probably redeemed the storyline a little bit. The thing that I really actually liked about this is the fact that Marissa Meyer has written such a diverse collection of characters, and I was talking to 2 of my book reading friends about this, and we each had different favourites from the series, and we each had characters that we really didn't like. So one of the girls was saying that Scarlet and Wolf was her least favourite storyline, whereas for me it absolutely made the story, and I was so pleased to keep following their story right up until the end. Whereas her favourite character was Cress, and Cress was my least favourite character. So there just really is a whole diverse range of characters who will appeal or not appeal to you as you go along. So I rated all of these books 4 out of 5 stars. I thought that Marissa Meyer's writing was really fluid and easy to get into. I thought that the take that she had on some of the fairy tales was really interesting and different. And as I mentioned in a recent video, her next book, Heartless, is coming out this month, and I am super excited to read that, and will definitely be picking up a copy. So if you like fairy tale retellings and you just want a really straightforward, simple read that you can dive straight into, then I would highly recommend these. The next book that I picked up was Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the sequel to The Final Empire, which is the part of the Mistborn trilogy, and this is book 2, so we basically just pick up the story of Vin and Elend as they deal with the aftermath of the finale in the first book. So I'm not going to go into too much detail in what this book is about because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but suffice to say I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I really think that Brandon Sanderson is a master storyteller. I love his world building. I think he has a real craft for it. It's an adult high fantasy. It explores a very interesting magic system which is based around the use of metals and alloys, and yeah, I just really enjoyed getting back into this world, and I'm really excited to read the 3rd one, which I will be doing in a few weeks as part of a buddy read with Julie from A Girl and a Book, whose channel I will link down below. So I'm really excited to see where Brandon Sanderson takes this series. And then the final book that I read this month was Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I bought 3 of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's books. I bought this one, I bought half of A Yellow Sun, and I bought Americana, and I chose to read this one first because I wanted to read them in the order that they were written. Basically, this follows the story of 15-year-old Kambili, who lives in Nigeria, and her household is basically made up of her father, her mother, and her brother, and Kambili. And her father is a very oppressive Catholic businessman who regularly is very heavy-handed with his wife and his children in order to beat out the sin in them, and he's very strict in his rules. And so she's lived a very closeted life with very high expectations being placed on her. However, at the time that this story is written, there has been a Nigerian coup, and we basically follow very gently the story of this family's demise in Nigerian society. So her father is a man who is very highly respected and is held in esteem among his peers and his fellow people, and the whole thing basically becomes unravelled. And as part of that, Kambili and her brother are sent to live with Kambili's aunt, who is a single mother and has very differing opinions to that of their father, and so they begin to see the world in a slightly different way and begin to have a deeper appreciation for alternative ways of living and alternative thoughts and things like that. I really enjoyed this book. It's not the type of thing that I've read about before. I thought that Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie did a really good job of showcasing Nigerian customs and lifestyle and beliefs in a way that you didn't feel like you were being taught it or that you were reading a non-fiction book, but you still got a whole load from reading this book. It's not very long. It is very fast paced and very easy to read. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. There is a bit of a shock ending, which I thought was an interesting twist on the storyline, and I thought that it made sense, but I also thought that it was very abrupt and there wasn't much indication along the way that it was coming. Now, it is written from the perspective of a 15-year-old who probably wouldn't have been aware of the bigger picture necessarily. So on the one hand, I understand it and it makes sense. On the other hand, I was just a little bit kind of like, what? Where did that come from? So that kind of maybe 3.5 stars for me. But I really enjoyed the writing, and I am really looking forward to picking up the next 2 books that I have. So those are the books that I read in the month of October. I think that I had a pretty decent reading month, and I've already read 4 books in November, so I'm doing pretty well on that score as well. Do let me know any books that you read during the month of October, or if you've read any of the books that I read and you want to chat about them, you can do that in the comment section down below, or you can find me on Twitter at JJMcGlynn. I am always willing and happy to have a discussion about books. Don't forget to click the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Thank you for watching.